You know the script we're all given, right? Build your career, find yourself, check everything off your bucket list, and then, maybe then, you can think about marriage. But what if that advice, that whole script, is actually setting us up for anxiety and regret? Today, we're going to flip that script on its head. We're going to look at why waiting might actually be the biggest risk of all.
I married the closest chair. Just let that sink in for a second. This is a real quote from a woman in her 30s, and wow, it is haunting. It's the sound of that game of musical chairs finally ending, and you realize you just made a massive, life-altering decision out of sheer panic, not love. It's a feeling a lot of us are desperately trying to avoid.
And this really gets to the heart of what we're talking about. We hear all the time about the dangers of marrying too young, but what if the real risk is the one nobody talks about? The risk of waiting so long that your options get smaller and smaller, the pressure builds, and you end up in a panic, just grabbing the closest chair.
To really get this, we've got to look at something that's become super common for a whole generation. Let's call it the 30-something scramble.
This quote from psychologist Meg Jay just nails it, doesn't it? She's describing what a client told her, and it's so true. Your 20s can feel like this endless party. The music's playing, everyone's single, everyone's just having a good time, but then it feels like it happens overnight. The music just stops. Your friends start pairing up, and suddenly the stakes feel terrifyingly high.
And that's when it happens. The music stops. The scramble begins. That fine, laid-back search for a partner, it turns into this frantic, high-stakes competition. It stops being about finding the right person and starts being about finding any person, just so you're not the one left standing alone when the lights come on.
So you have to ask, how did we even get here? Well, all this pressure is basically a direct result of a huge cultural shift in how we think about marriage. Let's break down the two big models, the capstone versus the cornerstone. The capstone model is basically the default setting for our culture right now. It treats marriage like it's the final, fancy stone you put on top of a building you've already finished all by yourself. It's the big trophy you get after you've perfected everything else in your life first. And hey, the numbers don't lie. The median age for a first marriage these days is pushing 30. We, as a culture, have totally bought into this idea of delaying partnership, all for that capstone ideal.
This slide really lays out the two different philosophies, side by side. With the capstone, you're trying to merge two fully formed, often pretty rigid lives. It's kind of like trying to jam two puzzle pieces together that were never meant to fit. But on the other side, you have the cornerstone marriage. That's all about starting a bit earlier, building that shared foundation together from the very beginning, and growing into yourselves while you're both still flexible.
I love this metaphor because it's so perfect. Trying to merge two finished statues can be awkward, right? The edges might not line up. But planting two young trees next to each other, their roots intertwine, they grow together, and they create a foundation that is so much stronger and more resilient than either one could ever be on its own. Okay, I know the big objection. I can hear it now. But marrying in your early 20s is so risky. It just leads to divorce. That's what we've always been told. But you know what? It's time to actually look at what the data says. So, take a look at this. This chart is from a 2022 report from the National Marriage Project. See that? The divorce rates for people who get married between 20 and 24 are almost identical to those who get married at 25 or older. Once you take teenage marriages out of the equation, the idea that waiting automatically makes for a more stable marriage, well, it's a total myth. And it gets better. It's not just that the risk of divorce is no higher. Cornerstone marriages often lead to way better outcomes. For instance, a BYU study found these couples report higher sexual satisfaction. They also tend to build better financial habits together, and they report stronger emotional health. It's about building a life together, not just showing up for one that's already finished. So let's just be really clear about this. The actual data we have flies directly in the face of the popular script we're sold everywhere in the media, the one that says you have to tick off this long list of solo accomplishments before you can even consider building a life with somebody else. And beyond just the divorce statistics, building that life together early comes with a ton of real, tangible benefits. We're going to call it the partnership premium. So what are we talking about here? Well, financially, there's the marriage premium. Married men, especially, tend to earn more. Practically, you've got a teammate to navigate all of life's curveballs with, everything from rent hikes to getting laid off. But honestly, the biggest advantage might be the emotional one. You get a partner who knows you before you've built up all that armor and all those defenses that come with adulthood. They grow with you, not just next to you. All right, let's bring this all home.
What does this actually mean for you, right now, as you're thinking about your future?
Let me be absolutely clear. This is not an argument for rushing into marriage. It's not about settling. It's about being intentional. It's about giving the search for a life partner the same focus and serious energy you give to your career. It's about making the most important decision of your entire life with purpose, not out of panic.
Cassin Stevenson, who wrote the work this whole explainer is based on, just puts it perfectly. This is about choosing a dance partner for the entire song, not just desperately grabbing someone for the last few awkward seconds. It's about creating a life of shared growth together.
And so that really leaves us with one final question to think about. As you're mapping out your life, your career, your goals, everything, is finding your person just another item on a checklist that you'll, get to eventually? Or is it the cornerstone on which you're going to build everything else?